Hi, welcome back to Real Life Q&A. I'm John Greaves, and this is Brad Martin. He's the lead pastor of Soma. Soma is, well, you know what? The Christian life is serving God wherever you are with your talents that you have, that He's given you. Soma is doing all of that in community. And so one of the things that we do is we decided to make Brad available for questions from you to...
Excuse me, I'm getting a phone call.
This is real life. Seriously, he has not turned his phone off. See, I'm the good. Anyway, and he just left. He honestly just walked off. So this is really happening. Anyway, so we made Brad available for questions from you all. You can ask him anything. He doesn't get more than 10 minutes lead time in the question. So you're going to get his initial reaction, his honest reaction to your question. Today's question is, Brad, what does the Bible say exactly about tithing? There is, I know what it says in the Old Testament, but hey, we're in the New Testament now. We're in the age of grace. So does tithing still apply?
That's a good question. So I'm not going to, in these 6 and 7 minutes videos, I'm not going to cover the ground that the Old Testament obviously commands tithing, Malachi 3, and on and on and on. So tithing is obviously commanded in the Old Testament. What has happened to a lot of people is that they look at the fact that since there are some of the commands in the New Testament, some of the laws from the Old Testament in the New Testament don't continue, like we don't sacrifice sheep anymore.
Right.
Others have applied that to tithing as well. The problem with that thinking is that Jesus talks about money constantly. In fact, he talks about money more than he seems to talk about heaven, which is interesting. So whenever you see Jesus talking about money, he's constantly talking about the giving of it.
Okay.
Not the you don't have to give it anymore-ness of it. He does talk about you don't have to kill sheep anymore. That sacrifice has come. You see that. But you never read anything in the New Testament about giving financially is over. And that's because, number one, God's a practical God.
Okay.
And it does. He built a world that does revolve around financing, and so it would make sense that he wouldn't delete that from spirituality, which would be rather bizarre. The other thing is that any time a person comes to me and says, "Well, that was the Old Testament. Jesus, did away with that," and I was like, "Okay, I'm going to grant you the argument that Jesus did away with tithing."
Okay.
If you go and look at every single time Jesus says, "You have heard it said, but I say to you," for instance, you've heard it said that you shall not commit adultery. And then Jesus doesn't say, "Well, I'm going to lower the requirement."
He says you can't even look at a woman.
You can't even lust after that woman. To look at her and lust after her, he raises it. He does the same with anger.
Yes.
He says, you've heard you can't murder. I'm telling you that if you're angry with your brother, you've murdered him in your heart. He raises it. Okay. So if your case is, I want to make the case that the New Testament doesn't support tithing or teach tithing, then you need to turn around and say, therefore, I am making the case that Christians should, if they're going to live in the will of God, give more than 10% of their income. Now, I have not heard anybody make that case.
You probably won't.
Everybody I hear making the case for the abolition of tithing is always trying to make the case for being stingy or non-generous people.
So Jesus expects us to give more, you would say, than just 10%.
Well, doesn't that go along with everything that seems to come out of Jesus' mouth?
It's a pattern, yeah.
He comes along and he says, "Sell everything you got and come follow me."
So then let's talk about sowing seed. I'm sure you've heard that phrase before in certain TV programs that we're not going to bring up here.
Okay.
Because I'm like, okay, there's tithes, there's offerings, and then that leads into another question. Like, when I was basically living the way I wanted to instead of the way God wanted me to, I feel guilty every now and then. And so I pass a church, and I say, "Hey, it's Sunday." And I go in there, and I just give them some money and leave. I've tithed. You can't be mad. At least you're not mad at me for that. Yeah. I had no idea what they're going to do with that money. Yeah. I didn't know if the pastor was, driving a Lexus while everybody else is starving. I didn't know. I had tithed. So, let's talk about that.
Well, I mean, there is a spiritual principle, Galatians chapter 5, that tells us that we reap what we sow. I mean, that's true. Sadly, many of these TV personalities, along with the real live ones in buildings on Sunday, seem to make so much of that that you would think that the number one basis upon which God is deciding whether he's going to bless somebody is based on what they're doing, you know, financially at that moment. And so, just to be honest, this subject, if you're watching this, now we're getting to a point to where I'm bored. And I'll tell you why. Because you know intuitively we were designed by God with his image in us, and marred though it is, you know when somebody's working a financial angle.
Yes.
Everywhere you go. And you know when that person has their mind set on your growth in Christ and their growth in their account.
Yes.
So, if we trusted that a little more, and if pastors would back up off of the money beg, they might actually find God provide more. They may not get to drive a Lexus, but if that's what your heart's set on, well, you're going to create your TV show around it.
Okay. Fair enough. I hope that answered your question. If you have any follow-up questions to this, or any question about anything under the sun, go ahead and shoot me an email at john@onesoma.net, and we will ask the pastor for that. And while you're at it, check out our website, onesoma.net, and see what we're doing. For example, on the 23rd of November, we're going to be out there helping to feed the hungry, because I strongly believe that you can't just say you love Jesus and ignore the people all around you that are suffering. Right. Anyway, thanks for watching.